You think you know these logos? You see them every day. They define luxury, comfort, and the simple joys of life. But if you peel back the glossy advertisements and the billion-dollar marketing campaigns, you find something else entirely. You find a foundation poured not in concrete, but in blood, addiction, and treason. We aren't talking about small infractions or a few unpaid parking tickets. We are talking about the darkest chapters of human history hiding in plain sight on your grocery store shelf and in your wardrobe. The clean, respectable brands you trust today didn't just survive the world's worst crimes, they were built by them. Let's start with the sharpest cut in the fashion world. When you walk past a Hugo Boss store today, you see crisp suits, expensive cologne, and a symbol of modern success. But 70 years ago, that name meant something very different. Hugo Boss wasn't just a tailor caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. He was a card-carrying member of the Nazi Party long before they took total power. When the war machine turned on, Boss didn't just stitch clothes for civilians. His factory became the beating heart of the regime's aesthetic. They churned out the brown shirts for the stormtroopers and, more infamously, the terrifying all-black uniforms of the SS. But the real crime wasn't just the fabric. It was the hands that sewed it. As the war dragged on and labor shortages hit, Hugo Boss didn't slow down. He scaled up using forced labor. We are talking about hundreds of French and Polish prisoners, mostly women, dragged from their homes and forced to work in his factory. They were held in a camp with little food, no hygiene, and the constant threat of deportation to Auschwitz if they didn't stitch fast enough. The immaculate stitching on those uniforms, the very look of evil that terrified Europe, was produced by enslaved human beings terrified for their lives. Boss died a few years after the war, fined for being a beneficiary of the regime. But his factory survived to become the luxury titan we know today. Then there is the car in your driveway. Volkswagen. The name itself translates to the people's car, a friendly, harmless idea. But that idea was the pet project of Adolf Hitler himself. He wanted a car that every German family could afford, a vehicle to travel the new highways of the Reich. The famous Beetle wasn't designed just for family vacations. It was designed to mobilize a fascist nation. To fund it, the Nazis set up a massive savings scam. Hundreds of thousands of German citizens paid into a savings scheme, buying stamps every week with the promise that eventually they'd get a car. Not a single one of them ever did. Instead, the money went into building the biggest car factory in the world at Wolfsburg. And when the war started, that factory didn't make cars for the people. It made stoves, landmines, and parts for the V-1 flying bomb. The workforce? It wasn't happy German citizens. It was a massive concentration of slave labor. At its peak, the Volkswagen plant was a city of misery. But it gets darker. The female slave laborers there, many from Eastern Europe, were often pregnant or had small children. The company set up a so-called nursery nearby. It wasn't a place to care for children. It was a place to let them die of neglect so their mothers could return to the assembly line faster. Hundreds of infants died in that nursery. A horrific footnote to the cute Beetle's history that the company spent decades trying to forget. Now, you might think a sugary soda is safe from this level of darkness. But Coca-Cola has a history that buzzes with more than just caffeine. We all know the urban legend that the original recipe contained cocaine. That is actually true. The drink was originally a patent medicine, a tonic for nerves that leaned on the addictive power of the coca leaf. But the more fascinating, illegal maneuver involves how the company played both sides of World War II. While American GIs were drinking Coke on the front lines as a symbol of freedom, the German branch of Coca-Cola was busy trying to survive under the Nazis. When the war cut off the supply of the secret 7X syrup from America to Germany, The head of the German division, Max Keith, couldn't make Coke anymore. He could have shut down. Instead, he decided to invent a new drink using the scraps and leftovers available in a starving, war-torn Germany. He used apple fiber left over from cider presses and whey from cheese factories, the leftovers of the leftovers. They created a fruit-flavored soda to keep the bottling plants running and the profits flowing. They called it Fanta, short for fantasy. While the rest of the world was fighting fascism, the German Coca-Cola plants were bottling Fanta, keeping the brand alive in the heart of the Third Reich, ensuring that when the smoke cleared, the company would still dominate the market, no matter who won. Finally, we have the ultimate symbol of French chic, Coco Chanel. She is remembered as a feminist icon, a revolutionary designer who freed women from corsets. But during the German occupation of Paris, she wasn't part of the resistance. She was living in the Ritz Hotel, rubbing shoulders with high-ranking Nazi officers. And she wasn't just socializing. Declassified documents revealed that she was actually recruited by German military intelligence. She even had an agent number, F7124. Her code name was Westminster. She didn't just do it for money. She did it for power. She tried to use Aryan laws, which stripped Jews of their property, to steal back control of her perfume empire from the Jewish Wertheimer family, who had helped finance her. She literally tried to use the Holocaust as a corporate takeover strategy. She even went on a secret mission to Madrid to try and broker a peace deal that would have left the Nazis in power. When the war ended, she escaped punishment, largely due to her connections with Winston Churchill, and fled to Switzerland, leaving the dirty details of Agent F7124 buried in the archives for decades. So, the next time you zip up that jacket, start that engine, or spray that perfume, remember the history stitched into the lining. These brands are clean now. Their logos are polished, and their pasts are often buried under apologies and corporate responsibility pages. But the origins remain. They were forged in a time when morality was flexible, and profit was the only language that mattered. It forces us to ask a difficult question. Can a brand ever truly wash away the sins of its creators, or are we just buying into a beautiful lie? The choice, ultimately, is yours.